In this section, we'll start a series of lectures about iptables basic matches, which are also the most used ones. As I've already told you, each iptables rule has a matching component and an action component. Iptables rules can be constructed to match traffic by protocol type, destination or source address, destination or source network, destination or source port, input or output interface, header fields, or connection state, among other criteria, and these can be combined to create very complex rules. In this lecture, we'll take a look at how to filter traffic based on source or destination IP or network address. We can match packets by source IP address or by source network address using -s or --source match option. Address can be either a single IP address like 192.168.0.1, a network IP address with a /mask specification like 10.0.0.0/8, or a domain name like www.linux.com. Please note that specifying any name will be resolved with a DNS query, and this is not always a good idea. Let's take a look at some examples. I want to drop all incoming traffic from Linux 2, which has the IP address of 192.168.0.20, okay, from this Linux machine to Linux 1, to the firewall. And I write iptables -a input. I am using the input chain because it's incoming traffic, -s, this means the source IP address, and the IP address of Linux 2, of the other machine, 192.168.0.20, -j, and the action, drop. Before hitting enter, I'll ping Linux 1 from Linux 2. Ping is working, and I am hitting the enter key. And ping stopped. If I list the firewall, I see that there are 8 matched and dropped packets. If we want to drop by destination IP address, we use -d or -- destination instead of -s when writing the iptables rule. In the next example, I'll write a rule that drops outgoing traffic to an entire network like 8.0.0.0/8 to this network. At this moment, I can communicate with that network. It's working, and iptables -a output, it's outgoing traffic, so I am using the output chain, -d, and the destination network address, 8.0.0.0/8. -j, drop. Now, ping is not working. And if I list the firewall, I'll see a lot of matched packets. There are 2 dropped packets. So this rule drops any packets destined to an IP address that starts with 8 or its first byte is 8. Perfect. Let's continue on and see another example. I want to completely deny access from this Linux machine to a website like, say, www.ubuntu.com. For this task, there are more possibilities. The first one is to find the IP address or the IP addresses, if there are more, of www.ubuntu.com and then drop all the packets that are going to those addresses. You can find the IP address of a website using either nslookup or dig. nslookup www.ubuntu.com. And we see the IP addresses of www.ubuntu.com. And dig www.ubuntu.com. These are the IP addresses of that website. Keep in mind that nslookup works both on Windows and Linux, but dig is a Linux-only command and has more options available. We notice that there are 6 IP addresses for this domain. If we want to deny access to the website, we must write 6 iptables rules, and each rule will drop one IP address. I'll write just an iptables rule as an example. iptables minus a output, this is outgoing traffic, minus d, and I'll take an IP address from this list. Let's say the first one. Minus j drop. Of course, at this moment, the access to the website is not denied because there are still 5 IP addresses that are permitted. The second possibility is to use the domain name in the iptables rule. It will automatically query the system DNS server for the IP addresses and add a rule for each IP address. iptables minus a output minus d www.ubuntu.com minus j drop, and iptables minus v n l. I am listing the firewall. And we notice that there are 6 rules, 1 rule for each IP address, that drop the outgoing traffic to those IPs. If I open up a browser window and try to connect to www.ubuntu.com, it won't work. The website is not loading. Notice that when dropping traffic based on source or destination IP address and you use a domain name instead of an IP address, at the end, iptables still uses IP addresses and not the domain name. I've used a domain name, but iptables uses IP addresses. This requires access to a DNS server, and that means other iptables rules that allow DNS traffic. Pay attention, especially when using the drop policy. It may be the case when you cannot permit or deny traffic to or from an IP address because you have specified the domain name, but the DNS traffic that resolves the domain name is not permitted. Also note that it's not a good idea to accept or drop traffic to a very big website like google.com or facebook.com this way. Domains like google.com have tens or hundreds of IP addresses, and the DNS response will contain only a few of them. You should use an application firewall like Squid instead of iptables. At the end of this lecture, I just want to tell you that if you see the address 0/0, it means any IP address with any network mask. For example, I accept all outgoing HTTPS traffic and I write iptables minus a output minus ptcp minus d port 443, this is HTTPS traffic, minus d, and now the destination IP address. And I write 0/0. It means any IP address with any mask. -J accept. Okay, that's all about matching by source or destination IP address. Thank you.